What if the secret to extraordinary achievement wasn't just luck, not a roll of the genetic dice, but something deliberate, a path you could actually build?
It's a really powerful question, isn't it?
Yeah, and today we're diving deep into that, looking at a story that really fundamentally rewrote what we thought was possible about human potential.
We are. We're talking about the truly captivating saga of the Polgar sisters, Judit, Zsuzsa, and Zsofia. Chess prodigies, yes, but they did more than just excel. They basically redefined genius in their field.
And our guide for this deep dive is this extraordinary look inside the mind of their father, Laszlo Polgar. It comes from his hugely influential book, Raise a Genius.
Right, and this really isn't just about chess, is it? It's about this radical educational experiment.
Mm.
The whole point was to try and prove that genius could, literally be manufactured.
So our mission today is to unpack that. To unravel Polgar's, frankly, audacious philosophy, we'll dig into his answers on nature versus nurture.
That age-old debate, yeah.
Exactly. And dissect his pretty scathing critique of regular schooling, and then uncover the specific methods he used, not just for brilliance, but crucially for happiness, too.
Mm-hmm. Happiness was key. So, yeah, get ready to maybe rethink some things about talent, education, what it takes to be truly outstanding.
Okay, let's jump right in then. Laszlo Polgar's audacious premise, the heart of it all, is that incredibly bold claim: genius is not born, genius is raised. What exactly did he mean by that? It really challenges how we usually think about talent, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely, that statement. That's his entire thesis, really. Polgar was utterly convinced that pretty much any healthy child has the potential to become outstanding, a genius. And it's shaped primarily by deliberate nurture and this intensive, specialized education.
So not just innate ability.
Not mainly, no. And what's fascinating is that he and his wife, Clara, didn't just pull this idea out of thin air. They started this whole journey after doing a ton of research, looking into the childhoods of hundreds of, eminent people throughout history.
And they found a pattern.
They did, a really consistent one: early specialization. And, crucially, the guiding hand of a really dedicated parent or mentor. So it wasn't just a hunch. It was based on looking at historical data analytically.
Right. So it's less about some fixed innate thing and much more about a system, an intentional approach. Polgar's view of personality, then, it seems to go beyond just biology determining everything.
It does. He saw personality as this complex interplay, 3 factors: our biological starting point, sure, but also the knowledge we acquire, and then our personal responses to life.
So biology's in the mix, but he's arguing that the environment, society, those are the levers you can really pull, the most malleable parts for developing potential.
Precisely. He had this real pedagogical optimism, as he called it.
Yeah.
And, his view wasn't totally isolated. It echoed thinkers like the American psychologist J.B. Watson.
The one who said he could train any baby to be anything.
That's the one. And also a Soviet psychologist, Vitrichenko, who basically said, don't say geniuses are rare, say we rarely raise them.
Wow. And did this experiment get any, official recognition?
It absolutely did. The validation came from Dr. István Harsanyi, a major Hungarian talent researcher. He called it the most important Hungarian psychopedagogical experiment in 1,000 years. 1,000 years.
That's huge praise.
It is. And the fact that it worked with 3 children, not just one fluke, that really drove the point home for many. It made it incredibly compelling evidence for his theory.
Okay, so with that foundation, it makes sense he had a totally different view on education itself. He really went after traditional schools, didn't he?
He did not hold back, a scathing critique. He argued they often fail to prep kids for real life. They tend to equalize everyone down to a low common denominator.
Holding back the faster learners.
Exactly. And actively hindering the kids who are exceptionally talented. He describes schools as these laboratories, sort of detached from real society, often killing any love of learning. Classes get tedious for bright kids because everything's aimed at the middle.
He brought up examples, right, like Einstein.
Yeah. Historical figures like Thomas Mann, who apparently failed 3 times, and Einstein, who was labeled a very bad student, obsessed with stupid dreams. Polgar suggested maybe their struggles said more about the system than about them.
And it wasn't just about boredom, was it? He thought it could actually harm talented kids.
Psychologically and physically, yes. Things like insomnia, headaches, neuroses, because these kids often feel ostracized, labeled keeners or nerds. It sounds like a pretty rough time for a kid who's different.
It does. Now, just to play devil's advocate for a second, did he acknowledge any value in traditional schools, even for talented kids? Maybe social skills?
Yeah, The book really focuses squarely on his critique and his alternative model. It doesn't spend much time, if any, arguing for the traditional system. His whole point was that its structure fundamentally worked against maximizing individual potential.
Okay, so that led him to his radical alternative. Early, intensive, personalized education. And homeschooling was central, but it wasn't easy to arrange, was it?
Oh, not at all. The book details this intense 9-month struggle with the Hungarian authorities just to get permission for the oldest, Zsuzsa, to be homeschooled.
9 months.
Yeah, huge perseverance needed. They even had a visit from a security police officer, armed with a machine pistol, apparently, just to check on them. And they had similar battles for the younger sisters, too. It shows incredible dedication.
Wow, that's commitment.
Hmm.
Now, this next bit really makes you think about development. His focus on the preschool years, ages 3 to 6. Why so early?
He was absolutely convinced this was the critical window. He cited research on brain elasticity, the accelerated learning capacity kids have then. He thought it was the optimal time for specialization, especially for things like foreign languages.
Like learning Russian.
Exactly. The girls went to a Russian language kindergarten, and by age 5, they were fluent in both Russian and Hungarian. It was about seizing that peak moment of receptivity.
He also kind of blurred the lines between play and work, didn't he? Challenged the idea that they're opposites?
Totally. For Polgar, learning could be and should be an enjoyable, serious game. He noticed that really capable kids often preferred meaningful, information-rich activities over what he called sterile games.
So if it's engaging, it is play.
Essentially, yes.
Right.
They might even play less in the traditional sense than their peers because they were drawn to mentally stimulating stuff. If it grips you, it doesn't feel like work.
Which brings us to this concept of a good workload, what he called active rest. This one really stopped me in my tracks, those 24-hour chess marathons. Judit at 8, Zsofia just 9.5.
Zsuzsa at 15, yeah.
Yeah.
Playing 100 matches almost nonstop.
Right. And initially you think, whoa, that sounds intense, maybe too much. But then you think about how kids can focus on, say, a video game they love for hours on end.
Exactly. The key takeaway here, and it's huge, is that engagement unlocks this incredible focus and capacity. It's not just about hours logged. It's about designing challenges that resonate deeply with the child's interests and state.
So those marathons weren't just endurance tests.
No, they were proof. Proof that when a task aligns perfectly with intrinsic motivation, a child's capacity for sustained, even joyful effort is just immense. It really reframes what kids are capable of.
Okay, so they decided against math or other languages initially and landed on chess. Why was chess the perfect laboratory for this whole experiment?
Well, the number one reason was measurability.
Yep.
Objective results. Chess has this highly defined, established system of evaluation, ELO ratings.
Right. Quantifiable progress.
Precisely. That was crucial for them to scientifically demonstrate whether their methods were working or not, especially given all the opposition they faced. They needed hard data, as Polgar put it, to prove the results more singularly.
Makes sense. But it wasn't just about measurement, was it? He saw chess as more than a game.
Much more. He called it a complex cultural phenomenon, simultaneously a game, a science, an art, a sport, and psychology. He believed specializing in chess would build versatile cognitive skills.
Skills transferable elsewhere.
Exactly, like a mental gymnasium. So their future would be secure, even if they eventually gave up chess. It was about holistic development.
And there was another layer too, right? About challenging norms.
Yes, significantly.
Yeah.
Choosing chess, a field totally dominated by men at the time, became this deliberate step to challenge those deep-seated beliefs about women's intellectual capabilities. Maybe incidental at first, but it became a really powerful part of their mission.
Okay, so chess it was. Now let's get into the nitty-gritty. How did they actually do it? What was the Polgar training blueprint that turned them into grandmasters?
Right, the how. The absolute core principle was igniting and maintaining such deep interest that the child would engage, as he put it, almost obsessively.
How do you do that?
Well, a key part was constantly setting up situations where success far outweighed failure. He aimed for roughly a 1-to-10 ratio. Failure to success, lots of encouragement, using the Socratic method, asking questions, guiding discovery, absolutely no coercion, just fostering love for the game.
That ratio, 1 to 10, that feels like a really practical insight. Not just for chess, but for learning anything difficult. You need those early wins.
Absolutely critical. For building and sustaining motivation in any complex skill, really. For anyone, any age. Consistent success breeds confidence and desire.
So ignite the passion first.
Yeah.
Then came the structured mastery.
Yes. They started with the absolute basics, Board layout, square names, colors,
Yeah.
then how each piece moves. Then they moved on to simple one-move checkmate problems, and they had a collection of 1,000 of these.
1,001 move mates.
Yep. Only after mastering those did they start playing full games. It was this incredibly patient, methodical foundation built over maybe 3 or 4 months. Polgar stressed, we should not begrudge the time for this.
Patience pays off. What about more advanced stuff?
Oh, yeah. They built this huge library, like 4,000, 5,000 chess books, and they had this meticulously organized database of 200,000 matches, which they later digitized. The girls learned to use all this from a young age for openings, middle games, preparing for specific opponents. They also used techniques like blindfold chess.
To build memory and visualization.
Exactly. And blitz, or speed chess, for quick decision-making under pressure.
But it wasn't only playing, was it? He mentioned writing.
Right. He really emphasized having the girls regularly write specialist articles about chess. He thought it was one of the best ways to deepen understanding and sharpen analytical skills.
And languages played a role, too.
A big one. Foreign languages were seen as a doubly necessary tool, essential for studying international chess literature and, of course, communicating with competitors around the world.
Zsuzsa learned a lot of languages, right? Maybe too many.
She learned 7 or 8, yeah. And interestingly, they learned from that. Her younger sisters, Judit and Zsofia, focused more intensely on fewer languages, mainly English, Russian, and Esperanto, because they felt Zsuzsa's broad language study might have actually slowed her chess development slightly.
So they were constantly adapting the approach based on what they saw.
Yeah, always refining. It shows how dynamic the whole process was.
Now, this story isn't just about pedagogy. It's deeply about family, freedom, and this huge battle for equality. Polgar really stressed the family unit, didn't he?
Absolutely paramount. He described his partnership with Clara, his wife, as consciously planned, built on mutual agreement, love, peace. Their whole lives were essentially poured into this experiment.
Clara's role sounds immense.
It really was. She used this analogy, the thread and needle. Laszlo had the big ideas, the thread, and she was the needle, implementing them. Managing the household, supporting the training, handling all the correspondence, traveling constantly with the girls. It was a true partnership.
And the sacrifices.
Immense. They both left our teaching jobs, worked 15-hour days, gave up luxuries most people take for granted, no car, no summer home, so they could afford tutors and books. They spent their nights studying educational literature. Just total dedication.
And what about the sisters themselves? How did they manage the dynamic between them?
That was also intentional. The Polgars fostered both healthy competition and really strong mutual support. They saw the girls as a team, as close friends, not just rivals trying to beat each other.
Which brings us to that other huge part, the fight for women's emancipation in chess. This wasn't the original goal, but it became central, right?
It did. Polgar became fiercely committed to proving there was no biological reason women couldn't compete intellectually with men at the highest levels. And the sisters, choosing to compete almost exclusively in men's tournaments, except for the Olympics, was the ultimate statement.
But that path was blocked, wasn't it? They faced serious opposition.
Formidable opposition. Real discrimination from the Hungarian chess authorities. The Hungarian Chess Association actively tried to impede their progress. They tried to remove Zsuzsa from global rankings, denied them passports for years.
Passports denied. Wow.
Yeah, officials like Sandor Sereni attacked Laszlo publicly, called him a crook, an anarchist, questioned his sanity. It took until 1985 for them to even get passports to travel freely to the West. It was a direct, bruising fight against deeply ingrained sexism.
How did Polgar counter the arguments against women in chess? You know, the old stereotypes.
He tackled them head-on. Arguments about brain weight differences, the effects of menstruation, the so-called female psyche. He dismissed them all as socially conditioned biases, not biological limitations.
And he had that analogy, the mountain.
Right, the mountain analogy.
Yeah.
Competing only against men, the strongest competition, was like taking the steepest, most direct path up the mountain. It was harder, sure, but it yielded far superior results and got you to the summit faster than playing in separate, lower-level women's competitions.
And the impact they had. It was undeniable, wasn't it? Even top players recognized it.
Oh, absolutely. World champions like Garry Kasparov and Anatoly Karpov, leading journalists, they all acknowledged the Polgars' groundbreaking achievements. Kasparov initially doubted Judit could challenge for the overall world title, but then conceded, although God knows, Karpov flat out said, "At that age, neither I nor Kasparov played like Judit does now." That's massive praise.
Shattered those stereotypes.
Completely.
Okay, and then there's Esperanto. It seems like an unusual choice in their curriculum. What was its role?
For Polgar, Esperanto wasn't just another language. He was deeply passionate about it. He saw it as a humanistic value, a tool to fight linguistic, racial, national discrimination, promote global equality.
So, ideals. But were there practical reasons too?
Yes, definite pedagogical advantages.
Right.
Its logical structure and reportedly its ease of learning, like 10 times faster than other languages, some claim made it an ideal first foreign language. Polgar saw it as a kind of logic puzzle that actually helped with learning subsequent languages.
Like a bridge to other languages.
Exactly. He cited the Thorndike experiment, which apparently showed that time spent learning Esperanto was more than paid back when learning French or German later. It primes the brain for language learning.
Fascinating. A blend of practicality and humanism. Okay, so we've covered the intense education, the chess focus, the family dedication, the fight for equality. But what was the ultimate goal here? Because Polgar strongly connects genius and happiness.
He does. He tackles that common idea that genius often leads to a difficult, unhappy life and argues the complete opposite. He even proposed a formula: happiness, labor plus luck, plus love, plus freedom. And he asserted that his kind of genius education was the most certain path to achieving that.
And his proof.
His daughters, they were the chief witnesses. He pointed to them as living proof that high achievement and happiness aren't mutually exclusive.
And others saw it too.
Yeah, numerous psychologists, journalists who met the family over the years consistently described the girls as, natural, friendly, charming, sensible, frolicsome, clearly happy, despite living these extraordinary lives.
And their lives weren't narrow, were they? Despite the intense chess focus.
Far from it. The book lists all these varied experiences they had. Meeting prime ministers, UN delegates, Princess Diana, playing chess everywhere, from the World Trade Center to the European Common Market Building, traveling extensively Strait of Magellan, Australia, Iceland, Mexico, plus diverse hobbies, photography, music, collecting chess stuff. It paints a picture of a very rich, varied life.
And that anecdote about Zsuzsa, that's incredibly powerful.
Isn't it? When she was thinking about marriage, saying, "Papa, how happy I would be if I had a daughter like me," that's not just someone saying they're happy. That's a profound testament to feeling fulfilled by the life she'd lived.
It really underscores Polgar's belief that happiness isn't just something that happens to you. It can and should be intentionally fostered through education, deliberately cultivated like any other skill.
Exactly. Not left to chance. It's about designing a life, an education, that leads towards well-being, not just intellectual achievement, a holistic view.
So, Laszlo Polgar's deep dive into raising geniuses, it really does challenge our basic assumptions, doesn't it? About talent, about education, maybe even about what a fulfilling life looks like.
It really does. His experiments suggest that maybe this potential for brilliance and for profound happiness isn't some rare genetic lottery win. Maybe it's an abundant resource.
A resource that could be cultivated in any healthy child through this kind of deliberate, intensive, and crucially loving education.
Loving seems key.
So it leaves you, listening today, with the provocative thought, doesn't it? What hidden genius might be waiting out there, in the world around you, maybe even within yourself, if society or if you dared to embrace this kind of pedagogical optimism? What might be possible?